I still remember the evening my neighbor Gladys, who had just turned 78, hobbled over to my front porch wearing the bravest smile she could manage. She held onto the railing with shaky hands, apologizing for moving so slowly. Gladys told me she never used to walk this way. Only a few years ago, she was dancing at her granddaughter's wedding without any problem. Now the simple act of bending her knees felt like a monumental challenge. Her eyes reflected both her frustration and her determination to find an answer. She was there to ask if I'd heard about any natural foods or remedies that might help her move like she used to. For many older adults, the slow tightening in the joints can feel like a silent thief. The joy of going for a morning walk, kneeling to pick something up, or comfortably climbing stairs fades so gradually that it's sometimes hard to pinpoint the exact moment these everyday tasks become burdensome. What starts as a little stiffness can progress into a serious hurdle, limiting independence and even interfering with time spent with family. The fear of, what if this gets worse, can be overwhelming. Yet all too often, we're told to just accept it as part of aging and carry on. But here's what most people don't realize. Accepting stiffness as an inevitability can steal years of vibrant living. If we ignore our joint health, we risk losing the freedom to enjoy life's small pleasures, like dancing, gardening, or simply walking up the stairs to our own bedroom without wincing. We risk losing confidence in our bodies, and that can affect so much more than just physical movement. It can lead to isolation, sadness, even a sense of helplessness that no one should endure. The good news is there's real hope. Contrary to popular belief, you're not stuck with immobility or discomfort just because you crossed a certain birthday milestone. Science, along with forward-thinking specialists, is revealing that certain foods can make a dramatic difference in how our joints feel, even well into our 70s, 80s, and beyond. In the next few minutes, we'll explore 8 powerful foods that can boost joint flexibility. You'll see how each one offers a unique set of nutrients to help reduce inflammation, strengthen connective tissues, and give your body the building blocks it needs to keep you moving with ease. By the end, you'll also learn about one particular food that almost nobody pays attention to, yet it could be the key to waking up without that nagging morning stiffness. Imagine standing up from a chair without worrying if your knees will protest, or walking through the park feeling light on your feet again. That vision is well within your grasp, and if you're wondering why you should trust this information, you should know that this isn't just personal opinion. Many dedicated researchers, nutrition-focused doctors, and wellness experts have spent years studying the role of specific nutrients in preserving joint function, even after age 70. Time and again, I've seen seniors who felt resigned to a future of limited mobility transform their daily lives by making simple, meaningful tweaks to their diet. This can be your story too. Before we dive into these 8 foods, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss future insights on staying active and independent. If you enjoy this content, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can improve. Your feedback is so valuable. Let's get into the first food that might completely change the way you think about staying flexible and mobile as you grow older. The first food to consider is something you've likely enjoyed before, but not necessarily for its health benefits: fatty fish such as salmon and sardines. Now, many people assume that all fish are the same, or they believe a simple fish stick once a week is good enough. The truth is, fish high in omega-3 fatty acids can work wonders for lubricating your joints, almost like oil in a squeaky hinge. Take Russell, a 74-year-old former high school coach who found himself dreading the start of each day because his ankles felt locked in place. For decades, he'd been told that a fish is a fish. As long as it came from the ocean, it was probably healthy. But after learning that salmon and sardines have particularly high levels of omega-3s, he switched from eating canned tuna to incorporating more sardines and fresh salmon into his meals. Within a couple of months, his morning routine changed dramatically. He could actually swing his feet over the bed and walk to the bathroom without the usual groans of discomfort. The key insight here is that not all fish are created equal. Some seniors worry that they might need to take expensive supplements or drastically alter their diet. But just 2 servings of fatty fish per week can supply enough of those omega-3 fatty acids to help soothe inflammation and keep joint tissues more pliable. Think of it this way. Inflammation is like a small fire in your joints, and omega-3s act like a built-in fire extinguisher. This improvement might not happen overnight, but consistency pays off. If you're looking for a simple step, try substituting your typical protein source, maybe ground beef, for baked salmon once or twice a week. Drizzle it with a little olive oil, top it with some herbs, and you have a meal that's both delicious and beneficial. People often underestimate the emotional relief that comes from waking up without dread. For many, walking around in pain feels like a restriction that weighs heavily on their minds. The moment you realize you can move more freely, that weight lifts. You start to feel more like yourself again. With something as straightforward as adding fatty fish, you could reclaim a piece of your life that once felt lost. The second food that deserves attention is one that grandparents often recommended, yet many of us have overlooked: dark, leafy greens, such as spinach, kale, and Swiss chard. The misconception here is that greens are good, but they won't do much for serious joint problems. That's exactly what Linda, who's 81, used to think. She'd see kale or spinach as a side dish, maybe something to nibble on at a salad bar. She never realized that these greens are loaded with antioxidants and important minerals like magnesium, which contribute to better bone and cartilage health. After dealing with persistent knee stiffness that made it hard to kneel or even sit comfortably, Linda decided to give kale smoothies a try. To her surprise, she noticed a lightness in her joints after a few weeks, an improvement she'd never felt before. She realized that, just as a rusty gate hinge needs a bit of grease and care, her joints thrived with the additional nutrients found in those deep green leaves. The natural vitamins and minerals help reduce oxidative stress, which plays a big role in how flexible and comfortable our joints remain over time. If you're looking to add more greens to your life, start by including a handful of spinach in your morning omelet or tossing kale into a hearty soup. It doesn't have to be fancy or flavorless. Blend spinach with banana, a handful of berries, and milk, or a milk substitute, for a smoothie that can nourish your joints from the inside out. The emotional benefit of this might sound simple: more energy and less stiffness, but the real payoff is feeling a renewed sense of control over your health. Instead of passively accepting the usual aches and pains, you're actively feeding your body what it needs to feel stronger. If you've made it this far and find these insights helpful, drop a 2 in the comments so I know you're still here and enjoying this discussion. Also, make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so yet. Your continued support inspires us to dig deeper and keep bringing you valuable tips. Moving on to our third recommendation, let's talk about ginger. Most people associate ginger with cookies, or maybe the subtle flavor in stir-fries. Unfortunately, seniors often believe ginger is just a spice that might taste good, but doesn't really have much impact on health. Here's the counterintuitive truth. Ginger is packed with compounds like gingerol, which research suggests can help soothe inflammation. Think of ginger as a mild yet consistent ally, quietly working in the background to keep your joints feeling better. Consider Harold, 79, who'd been wrestling with stubborn wrist pain for years. He struggled to hold a pen without feeling an unpleasant twinge. The doctors he visited gave him various topical creams, and while some offered short-term relief, nothing seemed to address the core problem. Then Harold's daughter, a fan of natural remedies, encouraged him to drink ginger tea in the mornings. At first, he thought it was a bit silly. How could a tea possibly help with pain that even medication didn't fully resolve? But after a few weeks of daily ginger tea, Harold noticed fewer flare-ups. His wrists didn't feel like they were full of gravel, and he could write letters to his grandchildren again. It wasn't a miraculous overnight cure, but rather a gentle improvement that consistently built up over time. To try this yourself, you can purchase fresh ginger, slice off a small knob, and steep it in hot water for about 5 minutes. Add a bit of honey or lemon if you'd like. Alternatively, you can incorporate ginger into your cooking, grate it into soups, stir-fries, or even baked dishes. The beauty of ginger is that it not only helps with joint comfort, but can also aid digestion. When you realize that a humble kitchen spice can restore some ease to your movements, you also realize that you have more resources at your fingertips than you ever imagined. This sense of opportunity is invaluable as we strive to maintain our independence and live with less pain. The fourth food on our list is a classic staple many seniors already love, but might not be harnessing fully: turmeric. Many people lump turmeric and ginger together, assuming if one is good, the other might be too, but they don't look deeper. Turmeric contains curcumin, a compound that, like gingerol, offers potent anti-inflammatory effects. Picture the fluid in your joints as a kind of shock absorber. When inflammation sets in, it's as if your shock absorbers have sprung a leak, leading to stiffness and pain. Turmeric can help plug that leak and restore some of that natural cushioning. Imagine the story of Francine, who at 82 often used a cane to get around. She'd accepted it as her new reality. "I'm just old," she would say, her tone tinged with resignation. Then she learned about turmeric from a friend at her community center who had experienced less stiffness in her hands. Intrigued, Francine began adding turmeric to her eggs in the morning and mixing it into a golden milk drink at night. Just warm milk, or a dairy alternative, turmeric, a pinch of black pepper, and a little sweetener. Within a month, Francine found she wasn't relying on her cane as much. Her mobility improved enough that she called her grown son in excitement, telling him she'd finally walked around the block without feeling those sharp, shooting pains in her knees. The common misconception is that turmeric is just a trendy spice for exotic dishes. But the real truth is that it can be a game changer for older adults looking to maintain fluid, healthy joints. Plus, the peppery, earthy flavor can really elevate the taste of soups, stews, or stir-fries. The actionable step here is simple. Find a way to add about a teaspoon of turmeric to one meal a day. Don't forget that black pepper helps your body absorb curcumin more effectively, so a sprinkle of pepper is a great companion. The emotional payoff is the thrill of feeling stronger and maybe even surprising your loved ones when you move around with a little more pep in your step. If you're still watching and learning from these tips, go ahead and comment with the number 4 to let me know you're here. Also, if you haven't subscribed, I encourage you to do so. Your support helps keep this information flowing for everyone who needs it. Let's shift gears and explore our 5th powerhouse. Berries. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. Most people know they're healthy, but they don't realize how crucial they can be for joint flexibility. There's a misunderstanding that fruits are mostly just sugar and may not be the best choice, especially if you're watching your blood sugar. The hidden truth is that berries are loaded with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds that can help tame joint discomfort. Picture Carl, 77, who found it increasingly difficult to open jars or twist doorknobs because of stiffness in his fingers. He had always loved fresh produce, but he'd cut out most fruits because he was worried about raising his blood sugar. A nutrition-focused doctor suggested that while monitoring portion sizes is important, berries contain important nutrients that could support Carl's joint health. Carl decided to have a small bowl of mixed berries every morning with breakfast. Blueberries, strawberries, and raspberries, sometimes topped with a little yogurt or sprinkled on oatmeal. Over time, the stiffness in his hands reduced to the point where he no longer needed help opening a jar of pickles. It wasn't magic. It was about providing his body with the antioxidants that help protect and repair joint tissues. The biggest reward for Carl wasn't just the physical comfort. It was the emotional boost of doing things for himself again. Being able to handle everyday tasks can restore a sense of dignity and independence. For those worried about sugar, remember that berries generally have a lower glycemic index than many other fruits, making them a smart choice even if you're keeping an eye on your carb intake. You don't need massive amounts, just a handful each day can offer significant benefits. The 6th recommendation might surprise you. Bone broth. Often people dismiss bone broth as nothing more than a fad or a leftover from old-fashioned cooking. But bone broth is rich in collagen, glucosamine, and chondroitin, key components for building and maintaining healthy cartilage. Think of bone broth as a direct deposit into your body's joint maintenance fund. Take the case of Miriam, 80, who had grown tired of the clicking sounds her knees made every time she stood up. She used to joke about sounding like a creaky old door, but secretly it worried her. At the encouragement of her granddaughter, who had taken a keen interest in nutrition, Miriam started simmering her own bone broth. She'd toss beef or chicken bones into a large pot, add water, some vegetable scraps, herbs, and let it cook slowly for hours. She sipped a cup in the afternoon in place of her usual coffee. It didn't take long, about 3 weeks, before she realized her knees weren't making the same rattling noises. She even felt a bit more cushion in her movements. One common objection people have is that they don't want to bother making bone broth. But you can also buy high-quality varieties at grocery stores or look for bone broth concentrates. The important part is to find a broth that actually gels when cooled, indicating a good collagen content. If you'd like to see if this might help you, try replacing 1 cup of your daily hot beverage with a warm mug of bone broth. It's a comforting, savory way to get nutrients that may help keep your joints well lubricated. For many, the emotional benefit of this small change is huge. It's the simple pleasure of seeing daily progress in how their body feels. If you're still on board and excited about how these tips can help, leave a 6 in the comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed or turned on notifications, please do. Your engagement not only supports this channel, but also shows us that seniors are hungry for practical, life-changing information. Now let's talk about the 7th food that can help keep you limber: nuts and seeds. These tiny powerhouses, including almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, and flax seeds, are packed with healthy fats, protein, and crucial minerals. The misconception people often have is that nuts and seeds are too high in fat or calories to be healthy. The truth is that the right fats can be tremendously beneficial, especially for joint health. Consider Gloria, age 76. She had persistent discomfort in her hips that made it hard to sleep through the night. She'd always avoided nuts because she thought they would cause weight gain. But after reading about their anti-inflammatory properties, she started adding a small handful of walnuts to her oatmeal in the morning and sprinkling flax seeds on her salads. Over time, Gloria found that her hips didn't ache as much at night, allowing her to get more restful sleep. She also discovered that these nuts and seeds helped keep her fuller, longer, making it easier to maintain a healthy weight. That, in turn, reduced the strain on her joints. A simple action step is to replace sugary snacks with a handful of unsalted nuts, or whip up a simple trail mix with almonds, pumpkin seeds, and maybe some dried cranberries. This swap not only cuts back on empty calories, but also feeds your joints essential nutrients. The payoff is subtle at first. A little less stiffness, a little more comfort standing up from a chair. But over time, it can add up to a serious boost in how you feel day to day. Finally, we arrive at the 8th and possibly most overlooked food for boosting joint flexibility: fermented foods, such as yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi. The bold statement here is that many seniors have no clue just how important gut health is for joint health. People assume that if they eat well for their bones, that's enough. But here's the twist. Your gut microbiome plays a significant role in regulating inflammation throughout your body. When your gut is out of balance, inflammation can flare up, affecting not only your digestion, but also your joints. Margaret, 83, is a perfect example. She'd been dealing with chronic inflammation that manifested as both digestive distress and serious stiffness in her knees. Nobody connected the dots until she started adding fermented foods to her diet. Just a small serving of sauerkraut with lunch or a glass of kefir in the morning. Over a few months, she noticed that her digestion improved and her knees felt less swollen. She finally felt at ease walking around her garden without that nagging burn in her joints. The common objection is that fermented foods might taste too strong or sour. However, the payoff can be big. A healthier gut that more efficiently manages inflammation, leading to happier joints. If you're new to fermented foods, start small. Try a tablespoon of sauerkraut with lunch or a half cup of low-sugar yogurt. If you prefer beverages, kefir can be a creamy, tangy alternative to milk, loaded with beneficial bacteria. When your body stops fighting constant inflammation, it's like a veil lifts. You feel lighter, more energetic, and more confident in your ability to move freely. Now let's take a moment to reflect on all 8 of these suggestions. You've discovered that incorporating fatty fish, dark leafy greens, ginger, turmeric, berries, bone broth, nuts and seeds, and fermented foods can significantly change the way you feel in your own body. Each of these foods acts as a puzzle piece, working together to create a cohesive strategy for better joint health. You've heard stories of real seniors, people who felt the same aches, pains, and frustrations you might be feeling, who made simple dietary adjustments and saw real improvements. From Harold's discovery that ginger tea eased his wrist pain to Margaret's revelation about the link between gut health and joint flexibility, these aren't theories. They're lived experiences. Even if you're skeptical, it's worth considering how these small actions can create a large ripple effect in your daily life. Think about waking up tomorrow morning with a bit less stiffness in your knees, or the possibility of taking a walk around the neighborhood with newfound ease. Yes, change can be daunting, but it's also a source of excitement and hope, especially when you realize that your body is still capable of adapting and healing. Every bite you take can move you one step closer to that future self who stands up without a second thought. The key is to act now rather than putting it off. While aging can bring its share of hurdles, there's also a window of opportunity to preserve and even reclaim some of the mobility and freedom you thought you'd lost. Don't wait for another flare-up or another missed family gathering to decide it's time for a change. The best moment to start nurturing your joint health is today. Imagine looking back a month or two from now, proud that you decided to take control of your comfort and independence, rather than letting time and discomfort dictate the terms of your life. So here's a simple question to ask yourself. Which of these 8 foods feels easiest for you to incorporate right away? Maybe it's switching out your afternoon coffee for a warm mug of bone broth, or maybe it's adding a handful of spinach to your lunch salad. Perhaps you'll keep a dish of almonds on the counter to snack on instead of cookies. Pick one small step that resonates with you and give it a try. Often, taking that first step builds the momentum you need to tackle the rest. If you found even one helpful idea here, leave a comment sharing which tip you plan to try first. Let's build a supportive community by encouraging each other's progress. If you have questions or experiences to share, we'd love to hear them. Remember, every journey starts with a single decision, and your voice in the comments could inspire someone else to take that same step. If you enjoyed this discussion and want to keep exploring ways to stay active, independent, and joyful in your later years, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could use a little hope and inspiration. Your support truly makes a difference and helps us continue bringing valuable information to people who need it most. You are not defined by your age, and neither are your joints. There's power within you to shape your future, one bite, one sip, and one mindful choice at a time. Thank you for watching, and here's to your continued health and mobility in the years to come.